Welcome back everyone to an assuredly Ahsoka watch party. One of the coolest parts of episode 5 was finally seeing Ahsoka with Anakin during the Clone Wars in live action. There's something about the live action that makes the whole story and situation way more real than animation. It's alive, there. And now with this realistic look at the Clone Wars in live action, you clearly come to grips with something that never before came across: how utterly young both Anakin and especially Ahsoka are. Ahsoka is about 14 in these scenes and still relatively new as Anakin's Padawan. There's a lot of interesting concepts here, but perhaps the most immediate is that she's literally a child soldier. Now granted, in a civilized society of real life, we would be horrified by the idea. No 14-year-old girl should be a soldier of any kind, much less fighting in an active war zone. But this isn't the real world, so we can put those considerations aside. This is Star Wars. What does that mean? Well, first off, it's not like the Republic had no standards at all or were savages. Instead, they fielded an army of rapidly aged clones. How old are these clones? 5, 6 years old? You see, Ahsoka is older than all of them. But anyway, it's about the Jedi. By the time a youngling is 13 or so, they are ready to become a Padawan apprentice to another Jedi. Then they're out in the galaxy going on missions and whatever that entails. And during the Clone Wars, those missions just happen to be the major battles. From the Jedi perspective, that's just the way it is. If you're the Padawan of someone fighting in the Clone Wars, you go along for the fight. Though from the Padawan's perspective, are you freaking kidding me? You would love an opportunity to dive into the shock of a student going from the Jedi Temple lightsaber classes to a full-out war. One thing the show does really well is you can see growth in Ahsoka's fighting in the two scenes. The first battle, she is clearly a little uneasy in her moves. In the second one, she's far more capable. Clearly, she had a great master. And as I said for this universe, it's not even that uncommon. You recall when Amidala was Queen of Naboo, she was the same age Ahsoka is. She then planned and led a battle to retake her planet from the Trade Federation. 14 years old, all this. So you've seen younger teens in this situation before. So if anyone claims that's odd for Star Wars, they're a little off. In fact, it's actually kind of normal for the fantasy genre. In the actual book, Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen is that same age as Ahsoka, around 13 or 14. Obviously, she was aged up for the TV show for certain, other reasons. But fantasy almost always has its main characters at least start out young, maybe these teenagers at the oldest. As 13 or 14 is the age of the real break from childhood into adolescence, it makes sense that so many great stories feature characters around that age. It's the maturing, the grasping of bigger things. Leave the child behind to enter a bigger world. It can happen on a scale both large and small. That's why we're drawn back to these stories. It works. A hero's journey doesn't have the same magic force if the hero is kind of old and washed up. Look at the most popular stories and you see the same thing over and over. That power came to life when it was in live action. The show tapped into that inner mythos of fantasy. That mythos is so powerful now. I and others like Star Wars Theory are out there wanting a whole Clone Wars show. However, the rational part of my brain knows that story has already been told, and maybe there's better ground to tread. But never underestimate the power of myth. Every time you think you've seen it all, it comes right back and captures your imagination. Have a great day. I'll see you at the next watch party.